Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Melanie again, and we are still discussing the Survivor 49 power rankings this season, in which we are clearly getting to a point in which the edit is not very deep this season. So these videos are going to be really fun from here on out, you can tell. So let's just kick into things as we usually do with the Hina tribe, starting it out with Jason. Who Jason got a bit more of a pronounced edit this episode, especially compared to last episode where he was one of the no confessional players. He led sort of the hunt for the beware advantage on his tribe. We got to see a couple more confessionals about how he feels as a person, how he feels like kumbaya with the tribe, and how he just loves everybody here. He was one of the people who really got to speak out against what happened to Jake and how Kella's failing so much. And it just made Jason feel fairly sympathetic. I still don't think he's set up for a win. As I've discussed, Hina is just clearly such an afterthought this season that it's hard to put any of them that high, but he is probably on the higher half of the season. And the player who once again got the biggest edit from Hina this episode, we have MC being the person who does find the beware advantage. We see her and Steven even more solidified as a duo, and everybody just seeming to be good with her. And really, I'm just feeling fairly solid about MC at this point. I think her and Steven are clearly the people we're meant to be paying the most attention to and probably have the most longevity across the season. So it'll be interesting to see where they go, ultimately long term. After her, we have Christina, who I don't know what they're doing with Christina. Christina seems like such a fun, affable, and like just friendly person, and would be such a fun character to have on the show. But it's just, once again, she's getting no content, and it's a shame. I really like Christina, but she's very, very close to the bottom now. And then we have Matt, who, a bit of a cooldown episode for Matt, didn't really get much to discuss with him personally. So we're just going off of mostly his negative content from the past couple episodes, which is negative content. So not great. Now we have Steven, obviously the big character, the star of Hina. And I still like Steven. I think he's fun. We get to see him and MC really solidify here, so I feel pretty solid about Steven here. And lastly, we have Sophie. And that's Hina. Moving on, we have the tribe who has suffered a ton of loss this episode. We have Kelle. Let's start by talking with the two eliminated players from this tribe, starting with the medevac of Jake, who, first and foremost, I just want to say I feel terrible for Jake. He had such a good reason and like cause for legitimately wanting to be on the show, and to see it be stripped away by a once in a lifetime situation, so far the only evacuation on Survivor that's been caused by an animal bite, it's really tragic what happened, especially considering hearing from Exit Press he was very clearly the best player set up on this tribe. I think it's very evident he was at least making it to the two, if not would have made it to the end had he been the last person on this tribe, which makes me feel really confident about Jake, even though I don't really view him as that amazing of a player. I think he did have a lot of potential this season and had some fun moments by the end of it. And unfortunately, as well, we lose Jeremiah, who I love Jeremiah. He's such a silly, fun character, has such a fun energy to him. And honestly, wasn't the worst player either. Just ultimately ends up falling apart due to the disaster tribe nature of what he ended on. So I like Jeremiah. I don't think that he's that bad of a player either. It's just he got a really rough break this season. So would love to see him play again, but it's obviously never going to happen. And now we have the two players that are actually still on the Kelle tribe, starting with Alex, who I feel still so conflicted about Alex. It's like he's constantly being shown, but I don't really feel he's ever being that propped up in the edit. It just seems like all of his content is very surface level to me, outside of his relationships with Sophie, which feel a lot more complex and a lot more developed on Sophie's side of things. As well, Alex uses his idol here, which I probably would if I were in his circumstance as well, but I don't think that the edit really was poisoning him as he needed to. I don't know. He's probably relatively high just due to how exposed he is, but I don't feel great about Alex. And moving on, we have the final player from the Kelly tribe. We have Sophie, who is clearly the star of this tribe, by far the most complicated character of the season so far. However, I think a lot of it does boil down to just she needs to be shown on the show at this point. And while I still do feel very good about Sophie's edit, and I think that she's going to blossom even more once we get to the swap, I do debate whether or not she should be at like 1 because of this fact. However, I do feel very good about Sophie still. And going from there, we're at the final tribe now. We have the Uli tribe, with the first player to discuss from this tribe being Sage. And Sage kinda sucks. She's not good at the game, evidently, just being on the outs of her tribe. She's talking down on Savannah, who is by far the player who has been the most propped up in the edit thus far. I just see no real positives for Sage at this point. She's clearly the worst edited player this season, in my opinion. And moving up from there, we have Shannon, who I like Shannon. I think that Shannon's in a seemingly good spot. I put her at the bottom of her alliance group, but really what's dragging her down is her connection to Sage, and it seems like she really likes Sage, and I just think that could end up biting her. And next we have Savannah, who Savannah is by far the best edited player of this thus far. She's consistently getting content even when her tribe just isn't relevant to the season thus far. I think that she's being propped up as this really keen, observant player. It's so clear that the show wants you to buy into Savannah and really like Savannah as a contestant. That it feels insane that her tribe hasn't even gone to tribal or came close to losing a challenge. It's crazy how much they're propping her up. It's a really interesting and fun thing to see, but it makes the Edgic analysis kind of boring thus far. Going from there, I have Nate, who I'm starting to cool down on Nate a bit. My main issue with him is just all of his content is just seemingly about him being the older person on the tribe, having to deal with the vibes and the kumbaya-ness of everything and sort of finding his place within it. And it's just, I don't see it developing into anything massive. Like, where does this lead? If anything else. I just don't know what his overall trajectory is going to be. And the fact that he's been getting the same content for 3 episodes now, I just feel very weird about Nate. Although Uli is just so clearly the focus of the edit that he'll clearly be relatively high on the ranking. Next up, we have Jawan, who I think is just a little bit better than Sage. He's not getting quite as undercut as Sage is, which isn't saying a lot, but still is also, though, clearly on the bottom of the tribe, and this episode didn't get that much of a focus either, so I'm not feeling totally great about Jawan. However, I don't think that he's going to be like a super early boot or anything. I think Jawan has some legs, but he's not going to win. And next up we have Rizzo, who Rizzo's edit is really weird. He's getting a bizarre amount of like minimal content, but at the same time, all of his content seems to have this big amount of substance to it, but it's also not that much. He occupies this weird space where you can clearly tell that you're meant to be paying a lot of attention to Rizzo and really like Rizzo, but they aren't giving him a lot of direct focus. Obviously, that's contradicted in the episode with the Beware Advantage segment, but you need to show that, so Rizzo is still very high on the ranking. I still feel pretty good about Rizzo considering he has consistently been in the show. I question why his content has been so minimal, though. Alright, and now we're moving on to the overall ranking, which I feel pretty content about at this point. At the bottom, as I said before, I think it has to be Sage at this point. Sage is just in such a shitty spot in the game. The edit isn't propping her up at all, and at least other players are just being invisible, whereas Sage is actively being undercut. Speaking of the invisible players, I have Sophie at 13 and Christina at 12, who they have got basically nothing across the entirety of the season. Sophie has barely even had a couple confessionals. It's just clear that they aren't going to be a massive focus here. I think following this, Matt is fair. Kind of in the spot where I had Jawan last week, but I'm going to put Jawan one spot higher here as Jawan got more content than Matt. So Matt at 11, Jawan at 10. Following that, I think Jason at 9 is fair, but that does feel really high for it being a Hina member. Oh well, though. 8, I'm going to put Shannon. I think 7 is a good spot for MC. 6, I'll go Alex. 5, Steven. 4, I think, can be Nate. Followed by Rizzo, Sophie from Kella, and Savannah still clearly at the top for me. With that being said, I really hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any disagreements, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to engage as well. Comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Really hope that you enjoyed this, and I'll be continuing on. You all have a great one, though. Bye.